So, Sanaya Rivers got on live, and you better believe the next time that the Indiana Fever faced the Connecticut Sun, like, I just want to see, has this really even been covered on YouTube? ESPN posted it 7 hours ago. ESPN posted it. ESPN took clips of it live and posted it in full on their one, which is crazy.
The war on Caitlyn Clark, a relentless campaign of physical aggression and cheap shots from opponents, has been one of the biggest stories in sports. But that on-court battle has ignited a second, more complex, and perhaps more damaging conflict. A virtual civil war within the ranks of the WNBA itself.
I want to talk about, this is crazy. This is Sanaya Rivers and Marina Mabrey going on TikTok after that Connecticut Sun game and lying. And this is an example. I want to go through some things with this because this is an example to me of what an absolute unprofessional cesspool the WNBA is. And I know you all know that, but I still think it's important to talk about this because history gets rewritten all of the time. I just saw somebody talking about now that with the Cheryl Reeves stuff, if you saw my video, people talking about how Caitlyn Clark was not playing well at the time of the selection and on. And that, again, revisionist history. I did a deep dive at the time. Playing as well or better than any guard in the league. Chelsea Gray just...
The arrival of this one transcendent superstar has done more than just shatter ratings and attendance records. It has exposed deep and long simmering divisions among the players. It has created new rivalries, forged unlikely alliances, and sparked a league-wide identity crisis that is playing out not just on the court, but in explosive press conferences and on fiery social media feeds.
Teammate, so evil.
Damned if I do or damned if I don't.
Marina Mabrey, damned if I do. Did she just say damned if I do, damned if I don't? She just knocked someone on their ass for no reason from behind. She freaking Marcus Morris them. Well, no, sorry, Nikola Jokic on Marcus Morris there.
If I do, damned if I don't.
I ate that one up.
Like, it's just basketball, man. Y'all love that shit in the NBA though. It'd be cool when the dudes do it.
People were calling for Jokic got a suspension for doing what Marina Mabrey did to Marcus Morris.
This is the story of that civil war, an investigation into the two factions that have emerged, the battles they are waging, and the profound question of whether the Caitlyn Clark effect will ultimately unite the league or tear it apart from the inside.
So first of all, there was a practice. They did their media during the practice. They pulled Sophie Cunningham aside, and of course they asked her about the JC Sheldon incident, and she stood on business. She said, this has been going on for a couple years now. Mind you, she was on the Phoenix Mercury last season, but she had mentioned that this had been going on for a couple years now with Caitlyn Clark, and she was basically sending a message.
From the moment Caitlyn Clark was drafted, the players of the WNBA began to draw their battle lines, coalescing into two distinct and opposing camps. The first and most visible is Camp Resentment. This faction is composed of players, often veterans, who have been openly critical or physically aggressive towards the rookie phenom. The unofficial general of this camp is arguably Diana Taurasi, one of the league's all-time greats. Before Clark had even played a single professional game, Taurasi famously issued a stark warning on national television. Reality is coming. It was a comment dripping with condescension, a clear message that the college superstar was not prepared for the physicality and talent of the pros. This set the tone for much of what was to follow.
You gained, I think, 500,000 followers and such, and your jersey selling out. How cool is that for your...
Yeah, it's cool. It's funny what kind of people are attracted to. I'm just trying to keep the main thing. The main thing is that's basketball, trying to win games, sticking up for my teammates. And that's all part of it. I think all that stuff it's fun and whatnot, but at the end of the day, we need to win some basketball games. I'm just going to be me. I don't go in there trying to predetermine anything. I'm dialed in. I need to focus on hitting my shots, making sure I'm executing the schemes right. I'm not focused on the extracurricular activities. And you know what? During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And
the soldiers on the front lines of Camp Resentment have been players like Kennedy Carter, whose blindside shoulder check became a national incident, and Angel Reese, whose long-standing rivalry with Clark has been defined by hard fouls and pointed taunts. The motivations for this camp are complex. It is a potent cocktail of professional jealousy over Clark's unprecedented media attention and multi-million-dollar endorsement deals, a legitimate frustration that their own years of hard work have been overlooked, and a sense of being disrespected by a narrative that has crowned Clark the savior of a league they feel they built. They are fighting to protect their turf and to force the new star to pay her dues.
The Fever saw it coming. They went and got Sophie Cunningham, 6-year-old black belt. This is what the Bulls did with Charles Oakley to protect Michael Jordan. Watch the retaliation later by Sophie Cunningham. And again, this is inappropriate, right? No, it's what happens in basketball.
If the Indiana Fever fans keep voting the way that they are, could they get Sophie Cunningham to an All-Star game? The Indiana Fever have 4 players in the top 10 of WNBA All-Star voting right now. So could we see 5? However, that top 10 is missing someone, and I think you guys are about to snub Angel Reese from an All-Star game, which is crazy.
On the other side of this civil war is Camp Reality. This faction is composed of players, both veterans and young stars, who have publicly defended Clark, or, at the very least, acknowledged the undeniable positive impact she is having on the league. Their mantra is the classic adage, "A rising tide lifts all boats." This camp includes some of the league's most respected figures. Breanna Stewart, a multi-time MVP, has been seen laughing and sharing moments of mutual respect with Clark on the court. Las Vegas Aces star Kelsey Plum has spoken out about the need to appreciate what Clark is bringing to the game. Even Aja Wilson, the league's reigning MVP and a fierce competitor, has offered nuanced takes that, while acknowledging the hype can be overwhelming, ultimately condemn the hate and physical targeting directed at Clark. The motivation for Camp Reality is one of pragmatic professionalism. They understand that Clark's star power, the sold-out arenas, the record-breaking TV ratings, the charter flights, is benefiting every single player in the league financially. They see the bigger picture, recognizing that while she may be their opponent on the court, her success is crucial for the long-term health and prosperity of the entire WNBA.
I think something we noticed, and I think a lot of people noticed, is when Caitlyn would get bullied, nobody would do nothing.
That's right.
Nobody would do nothing. It was like, hey, they didn't know, like, whoa, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe people are doing this to Caitlyn Clark. Teammates weren't jumping in there. They bring in Sophie Cunningham. I had no idea. Sophie Cunningham was a black belt at the age of 6.
Yeah. Yep.
This civil war is not being fought just with hard fouls on the court. Its primary battleground is the world of social media and the post-game press conference. Players are now using their platforms to wage a war of words, a battle for control of the narrative that is often as intense as the games themselves. Chennedy Carter, after delivering her infamous cheap shot on Clark, did not apologize. Instead, she took to social media, liking and reposting comments that supported her actions and criticized Clark. A clear act of defiance. DeJonai Carrington of the Connecticut Sun has become a prominent voice on Twitter X, offering a running, often critical commentary on the Caitlyn Clark discourse, mocking what she sees as the media's over-the-top protection of the rookie star.
Sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, is anybody on this team gonna stand up for Caitlyn Clark? JC Sheldon grabbing Caitlyn Clark all game, clawing at her. It's like tonight was a brawl, folks. Tonight was a brawl, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, is anybody on this team going to stand up for? And Sophie Cunningham.
These platforms have become a space for players to continue their on-court beefs, to rally their fan bases, and to push back against the dominant media narrative. The post-game press conference has also become a key battleground. Players now regularly use their time at the podium to send pointed messages, to subtweet their rivals, and to frame the events of the game in a way that benefits their side of the argument. Angel Reese, after being called for a flagrant foul for hitting Clark in the head, famously declared it was just a basketball play and that some people were living in a different world. This use of media platforms to litigate on-court conflicts is a relatively new phenomenon in the WNBA, and it has added a layer of high-stakes, personal drama to the season, turning every game into a potential social media firestorm.
Start with the play that set off the entire night. So as you guys can see here, JC Sheldon is guarding Caitlyn Clark. She swipes her in the eyeball. Caitlyn Clark nudges her off because JC stays in her face. And then Tina Charles runs over and is kind of wagging her finger in Caitlyn Clark's face. And then Marina Mabrey comes out of nowhere and chucks her to the floor. Now let's watch this in slow motion. Here, JC Sheldon is guarding Caitlyn, swipes her in the face. There's one. Going for the ball, swipes her in the eyeball. Caitlyn's gonna have to start wearing goggles. And then Caitlyn pushes her off of her, like, why are you still in my face? Marina Mabrey, bat out of hell, chucks Caitlyn Clark to the ground.
What makes this internal conflict so fascinating is that it doesn't always break down along simple pro-Clark versus anti-Clark lines. The intense spotlight has created a complex landscape of shifting and sometimes unlikely alliances, with players offering nuanced takes that defy easy categorization. The most prominent example of this is the league's reigning MVP, A'ja Wilson. As one of the faces of the league and a dominant force on the court, she could easily view Clark as a direct threat to her status. And at times, she has expressed frustration with the media's singular focus on the rookie. She has spoken eloquently about the incredible talent that has existed in the league for years and the frustration of seeing it overlooked.
I've been watching that Sophie Cunningham thing on repeat, man. That clip where she grabbed the girl and threw her down, so foul. It's a hard basketball foul, probably over the top. Of course it is, but why would it not be given the circumstances? But once she did the clinch, man, MMA fans, UFC, grappling, Muay Thai, like we all know. Once you seen that clinch, it was like, okay, she just ain't no regular fucking person. She knows something. She got some skills, and I guess she has like a black belt in Taekwondo or some shit like that, which is wild. And apparently she was the kicker on a high school football team. I mean, I've been going to the fucking lore of what is Sophie Cunningham. I'm like, god damn. This is what they mean when they talking about they like snow bunnies. Like this, her.
However, Wilson has also been one of the most powerful voices in condemning the hate and the racist undertones that have crept into the discourse surrounding Clark. She has clearly stated that while basketball rivalries are one thing, personal attacks and bigotry have no place in the game. In doing so, she has carved out a complex and respected position. She is simultaneously a fierce competitor who is not afraid to critique the media hype, and a respected leader who is willing to defend a rival from unacceptable abuse. This nuance shows that the players' civil war is not a simple binary. It is a complex web of professional respect, competitive jealousy, and personal principle, with players like A'ja Wilson attempting to navigate a difficult middle ground.
Nah, enough's enough, bruh. Enough is enough, bruh. What is going on? WNBA, y'all need to get this under control. This is ridiculous. Marina Mabrey, you just put yourself in the Dejanay Carrington box. You dirty slime ball player, you come and blindside Caitlyn Clark. Marina Mabrey assaulted and tried to fight Caitlyn Clark today. This is ridiculous. WNBA, Kathy Engelberg, do something. Do y'all want to go back to 55 to 60% of the people not watching shit again? I normally don't cuss in my blogs, but forget that. This was bullshit.
At the very epicenter of this league-wide storm is the Indiana Fever locker room, and specifically, Caitlyn Clark's actual teammates. They are in a unique and incredibly difficult position. On one hand, they are under immense public pressure to be more physically protective of their superstar. The media and fans are constantly scrutinizing their every reaction to a hard foul, judging whether or not they are tough enough to be Clark's enforcers. On the other hand, they are also trying to prove to the world that they are more than just Clark's supporting cast. They are elite professional athletes in their own right, and the media's singular focus on Clark can often render them invisible.
All right, enough is enough. You know, at some point, the line gets crossed too often where something needs to be done and things need to be corrected. And that is certainly the case with the way things around Caitlyn Clark are officiated. This is a constant problem now. You know, it is something that since the beginning, I've kind of like backed off on because physical play is a part of sports. You know, going after a superstar and trying to rough them up a little bit to get in their head is a part of sports. But when it crosses the line, the referees need to do their job.
Players like Aaliyah Boston, a former Rookie of the Year, and a budding superstar herself, have had to navigate this difficult dynamic. In press conferences, Boston has spoken about the team's growing chemistry and their collective effort to stand up for one another. Head coach Christy Sides has been visibly furious with the officiating, often picking up technical fouls for arguing on Clark's behalf. But the pressure remains immense. They face a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. If they don't retaliate physically, they are labeled as soft and as failing their teammate. If they do retaliate, they risk fines, suspensions, and being labeled as thugs themselves. The internal struggle of the Indiana Fever to build a winning team, to protect their cornerstone player, and to carve out their own identities in the massive shadow cast by Caitlyn Clark is one of the most compelling and high-stakes dramas in all of sports.
Welcome to WNBA Fight Night, or as some people are saying, WNBA Raw. What a game that was. We had it all. We had basketball, we had fighting, we had blonde on blonde crime. Oh, such an oh goodness. But at the end of the day, it resulted in an Indiana Fever W. 88-71, taking care of business.
When you zoom out, the conflict consuming the WNBA can be seen as a classic sports narrative, one that has played out in every professional league throughout history. The battle of the old guard versus the future. Every sport has moments when a revolutionary young star arrives and completely upends the established order. When Magic Johnson and Larry Bird entered the NBA in 1979, they were met with skepticism and resentment from some of the league's established, predominantly black veterans. They were seen as the great white hopes who were being handed the keys to the league. When LeBron James entered the league as a teenager, he was criticized by older players for not having paid his dues. This is a timeless story of generational conflict. The established veterans, who have fought and bled to build the league, feel a natural sense of ownership and are often resistant to a newcomer who arrives with more fame and media attention than they ever received. They believe that respect must be earned through years of hard work and professional struggle. The new star, on the other hand, arrives as a disruptive force, changing the way the game is played and drawing a new level of attention that the old guard could only dream of. The WNBA is now living through its own version of this classic narrative. The old guard, represented by some of the league's longtime veterans, is testing the future, represented by Caitlyn Clark. It is a battle for the soul and the direction of the league, a conflict as old as sport itself. In the final analysis, the arrival of Caitlyn Clark has done far more than just boost the WNBA's ratings and sell a historic number of jerseys. It has forced a league-wide reckoning, a civil war that has exposed old resentments, created new and complex tensions, and forced every single player in the league to, in some way, choose a side. The divisions are real, the animosity is palpable, and the stakes could not be higher. This internal conflict, playing out on the court, in the media, and across social media, has become a drama as compelling as any basketball game itself. This leads us to a final, powerful, and forward-looking question. Will this internal conflict, this battle for the soul of the league, ultimately tear the WNBA apart, driving away the new fans it so desperately needs? Or will it prove to be the painful but necessary fire that forges a new, stronger, tougher, and ultimately more compelling WNBA for the future? The answer will define the next chapter of women's professional basketball.